Good evening, everybody. Hello and welcome. My name is Peter Vangsness. I'm a volunteer on the AARP Massachusetts Speakers Bureau. Today, we'll be focusing on increasing your understanding of your Social Security benefits. AARP knows that you work hard and pay into Social Security, so it's only fair for you to expect to get the money you've earned. This month, we're offering financial programs every Thursday. We maintain a deep focus on the health and financial security of people 50 and over and their families, and you'll find that reflected in our offerings and resources and in our advocacy. This webinar today is brought to you by AARP, founded 65 years ago as the American Association of Retired Persons by a retired high school principal, Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus. From the start, AARP focused on preserving the financial security and health security of older folks. What's important to know is that with so many of our members still in the workforce, we are no longer called the American Association of Retired Persons. We are AARP. AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to more than 100 million Americans who are 50 plus and their families: health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. I want to take a couple of minutes to share how AARP is fighting for you before we begin our webinar tonight. We're advocating across the state and all the way to the United States Capitol to protect Medicare, Social Security, and your financial security. Last year, AARP led the fight to lower prescription drug prices, and we won. Millions of older Americans are now starting to save money on their medications. Here in Massachusetts, we continue to fight on a range of issues, including pushing for a caregiver tax credit to help defray out-of-pocket costs, improving the quality of care in nursing homes and other long-term care facilities, by increasing minimum nurse staff ratios and improving the state's preparedness and response to infectious disease outbreaks, removing certain restrictions related to senior property tax deferrals, and expanding the state's CORE plan, which is a 401k savings plan for employees of small nonprofits. Bookmark the AARP Massachusetts page to keep up on all the advocacy milestones we achieve in collaboration with our volunteers and our members. To keep up with us further, follow us on social media. We want to count you as one of our thousands of followers and fans online. We post all about our events, our wins, and our calls to action. During today's program, if you would like to ask a question, simply click on the Q&A button and type in your question. If you want to see the transcript, you can click on the CC at the bottom right of your screen and turn on the captions. We will address questions that are more of a general nature that may also apply to other attendees. Really individualized questions may not be taken up during this session. However, our presenter, who I'm going to introduce in a moment, has generously offered to answer those questions after the event has ended. If we don't get to your question on the live program, please email us at ma@aarp.org, ma@aarp.org, and Kurt will do the best he can to answer your question. After today, the recording that we're making now can be sent to you as well. But now we want to get to our reason for having this webinar this evening. And it's known as Understanding Your Social Security Benefits. Our speaker today is Kurt Zarnowski. Kurt is the former Regional Communications Director for the Social Security Administration in New England, a position he held from 1991 until his retirement in 2010. Ever since then, he has been very much in demand on the speaking circuit around the country, including the AARP Social Security Understanding Your Benefits webinar, which you're going to have the pleasure of seeing tonight. Kurt, time to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Peter, and good evening, everyone. Great to be with you. As Peter said, Kurt Zarnowski, currently the principal in Zarnowski Consulting. For those one or two in the webinar not intimately familiar with us, proud to say we're an international consulting firm whose world headquarters conveniently located right here in a spare bedroom of my house in Norfolk, Massachusetts, which is where I'm coming to you from this evening. But don't worry, at Zarnowski Consulting, we'd like to say we're able to provide expert answers to your Social Security questions. Like I say, that was simple. As Peter referenced, I worked for the Social Security Administration for 34 years. In the last 20 years of my career, my job was as the communications director here in New England, which meant I spent my time, as our Canadian friends would say, oot and a boot, talking to people about the Social Security program. And in my retirement, such as it is, continue to do that same type of work, largely because I enjoy the heck out of it, but also because I believe there's a real need for the information. Believe it or not, the Social Security program is now a little over 88 years old. And each and every month, Social Security pays $113 billion in benefits to over 67 million people. And on top of that, there's another 182 million folks like you in the webinar who are out there working and paying into the program right now. And what I saw during my time with the agency, and now that I'm on my own, is despite the age of the program, despite the size of the program, frankly, despite the economic impact that Social Security has in this country today, unfortunately, the myths and misunderstandings that are out there about what it is as well as what it isn't are staggering. That's why I was excited to accept AARP's invitation to spend the next 7 or 8 hours with you, slowly, carefully. Oh, all right. Spend about 40 minutes or so talking about some of the things I think it's important for you to know, for you to better understand your Social Security benefits as you make this transition into retirement. And why is it so important these days? Well, 2 words, baby boomers. 75 million of us storming towards retirement, just now starting to wake up to the fact the retirement world staring us in the face is different than the retirement world that faced our parents and our grandparents, starting to recognize that the Social Security program as a guaranteed stream of lifetime income may well be a bigger part of our retirement income than we had initially anticipated. We're also recognizing maybe you don't know as much about it as we should. So in our time together, give you some good, solid information, help you better understand what the program is, recognize what it isn't, dispel so many of those myths and misunderstandings that are out there that are so prevalent, and set you down the road to the comfortable retirement we hope to enjoy. But in addition to the prepared remarks, as Peter had mentioned, we'll open up and spend a lot of time answering the questions that you may have about your Social Security program. So, quick reminder about the disclaimer. Oh, here's the things we're going to talk about today. Excuse me, I forgot about this. We'll talk about retirement program. We'll talk about early, delayed retirement. We'll talk about Social Security and work. We'll talk about how Social Security is a family protection program, and we'll touch on the future of the Social Security program. Quick reminder, disclaimer, it's supposed to be informational, and we're not in the business of providing advice or guidance. So let's talk about retirement benefits. That's what I think most people are interested in. Is as I travel around the country and talk to people. Wait a minute, who am I kidding? I've been traveling anywhere for 4 years. Been locked away here in splendid isolation at the world headquarters of Zarnowski Consulting. But as I used to travel around, and now as I talk to people virtually, I think the single most frequently asked question has to be, well, when should I take my money? So understand this, you've got choices and you've got options. And what I'm trying to do this evening is make sure you fully understand what those choices and options are. In other words, you fully understand what you can do under the program. Because unless you fully understand what you can do, you're in no position to decide what you should do. So let's make sure you understand what those choices and options are. And the place to start is by making sure you know what is called your full retirement age. A key concept under the Social Security program. Now, when the program started back in 1935, Congress set full retirement age as the month you turned age 65. It was that way for everyone without exception until Congress actually changed the law back in 1983, increased full retirement age when anyone born 1938 or later. Increase gradually been phased in over time. Now, for a big chunk of us baby boomers, any of us happen to have been born between 1943 and 1954, our Social Security full retirement age was the month we turned age 66. But it's important to note, under current law, it continues to increase. Tops out anyone born 1960 or later. Your Social Security full retirement age is the month you turn age 67. Now understand this, collecting at your full retirement age month isn't your only choice, isn't your only option. But make sure you know what your full retirement age month is based on your birth, because you'll see as we go through the discussion this evening, a lot of features of the program do flow from at least having reached your full retirement age. So key concept to understand what it is. But in terms of collecting benefits, you happen to start the month you reach your full retirement age means one thing and one thing only. means you'll receive 100% of the amount your work and earnings entitle you to collect. That's what starting at full retirement age means. You get 100% of your benefit. But among the options you have are to start collecting prior to reaching your full retirement age month, if that makes sense for you. And under the rules today, you can start as early as the month you turn age 62, or at any point in between, by the way. But here's the thing. Social Security, as the name implies, is a social insurance program. And Congress has built certain social goals into it. And one is the hope that at the end of the day, based on average life expectancy, you'll end up with roughly about the same amount of total lifetime payments, regardless of when you start to collect. And so therefore, if you opt to start collecting prior to reaching your full retirement age, well then, because by starting sooner, in theory anyway, you'll now be collecting for a longer period of time, you'll find that your monthly payment amount gets reduced. How much of a reduction? Well, it's roughly 0.5% per month reduction for each month prior to your full retirement age that you're going to be collecting benefits. 0.5% per month reduction. That translates into a roughly 6% per year reduction by starting early. But you don't have to start right on your birthday. You don't have to start the first of the calendar year, but you opt to start collecting at any point prior to reaching your full retirement age. You'll see that full retirement age benefit amount has been reduced by roughly 0.5% for each month you're going to be collecting. And oh yeah, by the way, it's a permanent reduction. That's another one of those myths that are out there. So many folks mistakenly think, yeah, I know I'll start early, I'll get less. But as soon as I hit my full retirement age, my payment will zoom back up, right? No. Permanent reduction. The idea being if you're starting sooner, well, in theory, then you're collecting for a longer period of time. So you're given less on an individual monthly basis. The idea being, though, based on average life expectancy, you'd end up with roughly the same amount of total lifetime payments, regardless of when you start to collect. Now, as I mentioned, you start right at your full retirement age, you get 100% of your benefit. But among the options you have are to wait past your full retirement age month before starting to collect, if that makes sense for you. And with that social insurance ID in place, then, if you opt to defer, well, then by starting later, in theory anyway, you'll now be collecting for a shorter period of time. So by all rights, your benefit amount ought to be increased. And it is. These are referred to as delayed retirement credits. And for each month past your full retirement age that you opt not to collect, you'll see that full retirement age benefit increase by now 0.2%. 0.2% per month increase, that translates into an 8% per year increase by waiting. But again, you don't have to not collect for a full year. For each month, excuse me, past your full retirement age, you defer. That full retirement age benefit now permanently increased by that 0.2%. Here's the key thing. Delayed retirement credits only accrue from your full retirement age month until the month you turn age 70. Now understand this, under the rules of the program, you never have to take your Social Security benefits. It's not like there's a required minimum distribution like there is with your IRA or 401k or 403b. But you opt to defer from your full retirement age month until age 70, you'll see that full retirement age benefit increased by 0.2% for each month you've opted not to collect. You opt to wait past age 70 before starting. While it's your right to do so, you'll see no additional increase in your payment because you waited beyond. So let me give you a simple example to illustrate what I'm talking about. Let's say we've got somebody with a full retirement age of 66, and at his full retirement age of 66, he'd get $1,000 per month. What are the options that were available to this person? Now, we'll oversimplify the example because we won't factor in cost of living adjustments, but COLAs lift all boats equally. But if he wanted to if you wanted to start at the earliest point, right at age 62, the way the reduction factor worked out, he would have received 75% of his full retirement age amount. In other words, he wouldn't have gotten $1,000 a month. No, he'd gotten $750 per month in continuing. Well, yeah, he's getting $250 less each month than he'd receive if he waited, but the trade-off, obviously, receives that lower amount sooner. Again, in theory, then collects it for a longer period of time. Say he wanted to wait, start at 63, he'd have gotten $800 a month in continuing, 65, $933 per month in continuing. Again, at full retirement age of 66, that's when you get the $1,000, but say he wants to wait a year. Start at age 67. That 1 year deferral's payment now is going to be 8% higher by waiting, meaning his benefit isn't $1,000 a month. No, it's $1,080 per month and continuing. Wants to wait till age 69? Well, he'll see that payment increase by 8% now for each of the 3 years he's waited, and it's simple interest, not compounded. Meaning the payment at 69 is $1,240. Waits all the way until age 70. You'll see that full retirement age benefit of $1,000 increase by 8% for each of the 4 years he's opted not to collect, meaning his payment at age 70, not $1,000 a month. No, it's $1,320 per month and continuing. Let's say he wanted to wait and start at age 72. Still going to be that same $1,320, right? Because there are no additional delayed retirement credits past age 70. So what are the things you ought to be thinking about? Well, you know as well as I do, there's no one right age at which to collect. It's an individual decision based on your individual circumstances. Now, what are some of the things you ought to be thinking about? Well, you know as well as I do. Your health, for one, right? Longevity, for a second factor. Always like to ask, do you come from a family of long livers, or do you come from a family of short pancreases? Hey, it's a line out of the movie Goodbye Columbus from 50-something years ago. Can't take credit for it. You know, you need the money, you're going to keep working, all those factors come into play. But the whole idea always used to be based on average life expectancy. It's all supposed to come out about even. That's why I never tell people what they should do, but I want you to understand what you can do so that in the end, you're making an informed decision about what's best for you and your family. And in its simplest form, you start sooner, you get a lower amount for the rest of your life. You wait longer before you start, you get a higher payment amount for the rest of your life. But again, the whole idea always used to be based on average life expectancy, all supposed to come out about even. So how do you decide what makes the most sense for you? Well, obviously, you need to plan for your retirement. And you'd be commended taking some time out of your busy schedule, spending a little time with us this evening, learning about this aspect of retirement planning. In other words, the Social Security program. Now, for the longest time, the Social Security Administration tried to play a proactive role in helping you plan for your retirement. Because as you may recall, back in the day, they used to mail on an annual basis a paper document, a Social Security statement. That statement designed to show up in your mailbox about 3 months before your birthday, providing important retirement planning information, have benefit estimates at 3 different ages, 62, your full retirement age, or 70. Also provided a nice year-by-year breakout of what the Social Security Administration had recorded as your work and earnings under the program. And it was important when you get that statement each year to review the earnings history to make sure it was accurate, because your benefit is directly related to what your work and earnings have been. So if a mistake had occurred, it was important to catch it and correct it, because if you didn't, it would have a direct impact on what you would eventually receive. But you may have noticed, hey, I haven't got one of those every year lately. What's the deal? Well, Social Security has significantly altered distribution plans for Social Security statements. The big news is they no longer mail paper documents on an annual basis to everyone 25 years of age or older. Instead, what they've done first and foremost, though, is put in place a system whereby if you go to www.socialsecurity.gov, take about 15 or 20 minutes or so, and set up an individual My Social Security account for yourself, an important byproduct of having that account in place will be the ability to download through a secure website a Social Security statement whenever you need one or want one. You're going to meet with someone, do some retirement planning, being able to bring a current Social Security statement to that meeting, going to make it a far more worthwhile exercise. So a homework assignment from me to all of you tonight is, if you have not yet set up your individual My Social Security account for yourself, please do so. Again, down the road, once you start to collect payments, a lot of advantages flow from having that account in place. But prior to retirement, the big advantage is the ability to access a Social Security statement whenever you need one or want one. Get that individualized benefit estimate, help you understand what Social Security is going to provide. Hopefully you'll recognize designed to get you a base, a foundation of income, but you find ways to supplement your Social Security payment because it was never intended to be anyone's sole source of income in retirement. So plan for retirement, use that Social Security statement as the planning tool it was designed to be. Again, designed to help you understand what the program is, recognize what it isn't, put you in a position where you can make an informed decision about when best for you to start collecting retirement benefits. Well, by the way, Social Security has decided to resume mailing paper statements, albeit though on a very limited basis. And what they say is, well, if you're over the age of 60 and have not yet set up an individual My Social Security account for yourself, they will still mail you a paper document, same old schedule, about 3 months before your birthday. But that's it for paper mailings. Anyone under the age of 60, the only way you get a Social Security statement is by setting up that My Social Security account. But my view is, even if you're over the age of 60, I think it makes sense to set up that My Social Security account for yourself. Because again, you're going to meet with somebody, do some retirement planning, being able to bring a current Social Security statement to that meeting, going to make it a far more worthwhile exercise. So again, make an informed decision about what's best for you. Understand in its simplest form, you start sooner, you get a lower amount for the rest of your life. You wait longer before you start, you get a higher payment amount for the rest of your life. But make an informed decision about what's best for you. In addition to that Social Security statement, AARP has a resource center where you can get lots of information designed to also help you make that informed decision about what's best for you. AARP.org/Social Security, calculators, information, again, all designed to help you make that informed decision about what's best for you. So we talked about the when you can collect. I want to spend a couple of minutes now talking about working in retirement, because it's another area where I get lots of questions as I talk to folks. And it's yet another area where it's vitally important to know what your Social Security full retirement age month is. Because under the rules of the program, if you are under your full retirement age, looking to collect Social Security benefits, but intending to work at the same time, you need to understand that you're limited in how much you can earn before it begins to impact your ability to collect. This year, 2023, under full retirement age, you're allowed to make up to $21,240 without any loss of benefits whatsoever. $21,240 or less, you'll collect full payments all 12 months of the year. Now, you make over that, doesn't mean you can't necessarily collect it all, but Social Security is required to withhold $1 in benefits for every $2 that you're over the threshold. So depending on how much you're making, you may not be able to collect even if you want to, because they'd be withholding more than they could pay you. So what counts towards that $21,240 threshold? Two things: wages and or net income from self-employment. In other words, earned income only. That wide world of unearned income you might be receiving, like a VA benefit, a General Motors pension, 401k distributions, bank interest, dividends, things like that. None of that counts towards that $21,240 threshold. Earned income only. The great news is once you reach your full retirement age month, this earnings limitation goes away. From the month you reach full retirement age on, you're allowed to work and earn and make as much as you like without any loss of Social Security benefits whatsoever. Full retirement age month on, no longer any earnings limitation imposed on you whatsoever. So I don't know how many times I've been asked the question, hey, Kurt, I'm retired, I'm collecting benefits, but I'm thinking about going back to work. I don't have to pay Social Security tax on my earnings, do I? Well, yes, you do. If you're in a job covered by Social Security, you will absolutely pay Social Security tax on those earnings, which is good news for the folks at Social Security because they can certainly use the money these days. But there's potentially good news for you as well. And why do I say that? Well, the important note is that your benefit is calculated by averaging your highest 35 years of work under the system. Now, it isn't necessarily your first 35. It isn't necessarily your last 35. It isn't even necessarily 35 consecutive years. But Social Security looks at your earnings history. Now, they do go back and adjust prior years for inflation, bring them up to today's dollars, but they calculate your benefit by plucking out and averaging your highest 35 years of work under the system. So the good news for you is, even if you're retired collecting benefits, you go back to work in a job covered under Social Security. Well, at the end of the year, you file your tax return. Social Security automatically does a match. They compare that new year of earnings with the lowest of the 35 years that they'd been using to calculate your payment up until that point. And if your new year of earnings is higher than the lowest of your 35 that they've been using, they drop out the low year, plug in the new year, and it results in a benefit increase for you going forward. And this ability to increase your payment through additional work and earnings, it continues forever. Yeah, we talked about delayed retirement credit stopping at age 70. That bump because you haven't collected. Yeah, that stops when you turn age 70. But no matter how old you are, if you're working, paying into the program, and the earnings are higher than the lowest of the 35 years that Social Security had been using up until that point, well, the good news is you're going to see a benefit increase as a result of those additional earnings. Now, these recalculations of benefits occur automatically around September or October of each year, and any increase you're due is retroactive to January of the year. Now, the other bit of good news about working in retirement is, frankly, it really never hurts. So you've been a high-priced executive, but in retirement, you take a part-time job at the Wentworth Hills Country Club, driving the beer cart around, and at the end of the year, make a couple $1,000 bucks. Well, chances are that couple $1,000 is going to be lower than the lowest of the 35 years that Social Security had been using to calculate your payment. So what happens to your benefit amount going forward? Nothing, because it's always based on an average of your 35 highest years of work under the system. So again, understand this. Under full retirement age, earnings limitation applies, but after full retirement age, you're allowed to work and earn as much as you'd like without any loss of benefits whatsoever. Hey, want to give you a couple of numbers to think about before I move on to discussion about Social Security being a family protection program. Just a quick reminder, in 2023, the average Social Security retirement benefit being paid is $1,827 per month. $1,827 average retirement benefit per month translates into $21,924 per year. Then I often get asked the question, well, is there a maximum payment that Social Security makes? Well, in 2023, this year, someone who was at his or her full retirement age and who for each of the past 35 years has had earnings at or above the Social Security taxable maximum. So that's an important point. Each year, there's a maximum level of earnings subject to Social Security tax. This year, for example, you make $500,000. You're only going to pay Social Security tax this year, the first $160,200 that you make. Anything above that, sure, you'll pay a 1.45% Medicare tax, but you won't pay Social Security tax at 6.2% FICA tax, anything above that. So when it comes time to average your earnings, Social Security only averages in earnings that had been subject to Social Security tax. So to recap, 2023, someone at full retirement age who's past 35 years have had earnings at or above the taxable maximum for each of those years. This year, he or she receives $3,627 per month, $3,627 per month, or $43,524 a year. Good solid base, good solid foundation, but never intended to be your only source of income in retirement. And the sooner you recognize that, find ways you can supplement your Social Security, the more likely you are to have that comfortable retirement we're all hoping to enjoy. So we focus to now on individual retirement benefits, payments to you, when you can collect, how work affects those. I want to spend a couple of minutes, though, talking about how the Social Security program really is a comprehensive family protection program. And for workers and their families, when they reach retirement age, there's the possibility of other folks collecting benefits from Social Security in addition to what's being paid to the retiree itself, him or herself, excuse me. Among those people eligible to collect: children, spouses, divorced spouses, and widows or widowers, survivor benefits. So let's talk about each of those individually to make sure you understand what this comprehensive social insurance program is all about. So you start to collect Social Security retirement benefits. Under the rules, if you have children under the age of 18 who are unmarried, each of those children is eligible to collect an additional payment, the amount of which is based on your work record, and each child eligible to collect up to 50% of your full retirement age benefit amount. Now, there is a family maximum that comes into play that limits the total amount of payments that can go out each month, but basically each qualified child receive a payment equal to 50% of your full retirement age amount. Now, the key thing is you have to be collecting before that child can collect, but benefits can be paid to children, excuse me, under the age of 18. Kids over the age of 18 can also be paid through age 19 if they're full-time students in high school. And there's an additional category, what are called disabled adult children. These are kids over the age of 18, but who've been under a disability that began prior to their turning 22. These disabled adult children, again, can be paid the amount based on your work record, but can be paid as long as you're being paid that monthly Social Security retirement benefit. So kids, and thankfully, Social Security is seeing a lot more kids collecting payments under the retirement program, largely because of second families. People married, divorced, remarried, having more kids. But it's important to note, part of that retirement planning process, Social Security retirement program does pay benefits to children under the age of 18 through age 19 if full-time student in high school in this special category, kids under the age, disabled adult children over the age of 18, but under a disability that began prior to age 22. Now, what about benefits to spouses? Another important area to understand how the Social Security program operates. Been a lot written in the literature over the course of 10 or 15 years or so about some esoteric Social Security claiming strategies that were all the rage, and they were ways that Social Security payments for spouses and couples could be maximized by utilizing some of these esoteric claiming strategies. You may have heard of them, something like file and suspend, or claim some now, claim more later, or file a restricted application. All of these were ways that couples could optimize or maximize their lifetime Social Security benefits under the spousal benefit program. These are all great deals. In fact, they were all such great deals that Congress eliminated them with passage of something called the Bipartisan Budget Bill of 2015. So all of those esoteric claiming strategies now long gone, hard to find. So when we're talking about spousal benefits, we're back to the basic fundamentals. And what are those fundamentals? Well, you head to Social Security and you say, I want spousal benefits. Well, one of the old strategies, claim some now, claim more later, said that if you were at your full retirement age and your spouse was collecting, you had the option of taking just a spousal benefit without having to apply for your own retirement benefit first. Well, that meant you could receive something each month, and the spousal portion is 50% of your spouse's full retirement age amount, without being required to take your own retirement benefit first, which meant your own retirement benefit would then increase 2/3% per month, 8% per year, right up until age 70. Again, a great deal. Now, if you were under your full retirement age, that was never an option, but at full retirement age, that was always an option. But what the new law says is, regardless of your age, whether you're at, over, or under full retirement age, when you go to Social Security, you're always required to take your own retirement benefit first. Social Security will then investigate whether you might be eligible for some type of spousal portion. And how do they do that? Well, they do that by comparing your full retirement age amount with 50% of your spouse's full retirement age amount. And if your own full retirement age amount exceeds 50% of your spouse's, well, you collect solely based on your own work record. But if your own is less than 50%, you collect your own and then are due some additional money at that spousal portion. But the key thing is you can't receive that additional hunk of money unless and until your spouse is actually collecting. That was another one of those old strategies that said if spouse had reached full retirement age, he or she could file and suspend, apply for benefits, ask to have payments suspended to accrue delayed retirement credits. But Social Security could pay a spousal benefit even though your spouse wasn't yet collecting. Now, you can't get that spousal portion now unless and until your spouse is actually collecting. Now, the key thing, too, is spousal benefits can be paid as early as age 62, but just like with retirement benefits, you file prior to your full retirement age, you get a reduced amount. But with spousal benefits, it's always based on 50% of your spouse's full retirement age amount, not necessarily 50% of what your spouse may actually be collecting. But you always have to take your own first. If it's more than 50% of your spouse's, you collect solely based on your own work record. If it's less, you get your own plus some additional money. But again, your spouse has to be collecting in order for you to get that additional hunk of money. Spousal benefits. What about benefits for divorced spouses? Well, the program allows that in certain circumstances. What are those conditions? Well, first, for a divorced spouse to collect, the marriage must have lasted at least 10 years prior to the divorce. For regular spousal benefits, simply a 1-year duration of marriage requirement. But for divorced spousal benefits to be paid, marriage must have lasted at least 10 years. Second, you have to be at least age 62. Thirdly, you cannot be married. Your ex can have remarried without impacting your ability to collect, but you cannot collect based on your ex-spouse's work record unless you are unmarried. But here's a key difference. As I mentioned, with spousal benefits, you couldn't receive that spousal portion unless until your spouse was actually collecting. But what the divorce spouse law allows is if you're both over the age of 62 and the divorce was finalized for at least 2 years, then you can begin to collect as a divorced spouse, even if your ex has not yet started to collect. So those conditions being met, what are you entitled to receive? Well, simple. It's if the marriage were still intact. You're always required to take your own retirement benefit first. Social Security will compare your full retirement age amount with 50% of your ex's. If your own exceeds 50% of your ex's, you collect solely based on your own work record. If it's less, you collect your own plus some additional money. Key thing with spousal, divorce spousal benefits, you're always collecting one amount or the other, whichever one is higher, but you never get both amounts at once. Now, what about survivor benefits, payments to widows and widowers? Well, here basically the news is a little bit better. With spousal and divorce spousal payments, your benefits based on 50% of your ex's or your spouse's full retirement age amount. But with survivor benefits, it's based on 100% of the amount your now deceased spouse was collecting at the time he or she passed away, or would have been collecting had they started drawing benefits. So, for an example, you're getting $800 a month, your spouse getting $1,000 a month, your spouse passes away. Well, assuming you're full retirement age or older, you'll begin to receive an additional $200 per month, moving you from your own $800 benefit up to the $1,000 level your now deceased spouse had been collecting. Well, that's the good news. The bad news, if you think about it, while you were both alive, in our example, you're getting $1,800 a month in Social Security benefits. He or she passes away. Sure, your individual payment goes up, but the income to the household drops. So it's just something you need to plan for. It's one amount to the other, whichever one is higher. The other point I want to make is this. Spouse, full retirement age amount of $1,000, full retirement age of 66, but is waited till age 70 to collect. So at the time of passing is getting $1,320 per month, as we showed in the example. Well, the better news is your survivor benefit jumps all the way up to that $1,320. So just keep in mind, by opting to collect sooner, not only is your own benefit lower than it would be if you waited, but it also means any survivor benefit's going to be lower. And by opting to wait, not only is your own payment higher once you start to collect it, but it means any type of survivor benefit going to be higher as well. Just something to keep in mind in making that informed decision. Widows and widowers can collect a little bit sooner, start to collect as early as age 60, but you start prior to full retirement age, you're getting a reduced amount. And if you're caring for a disabled child of the deceased wage earner, you can begin to collect survivor benefits regardless of how old you are. So full family protection program. So we're at the point where you've reached the end of your rope. No mas, I quit, like Roberto Duran. You've had enough. You've decided you want to retire at the end of December and start to collect Social Security benefits. effective with the month of January 2024. Well, what do you do? Well, understand this. Social Security can accept an application for benefits a maximum of 3 months in advance of the month you want to start to collect. So you want to start to collect effective with the month of January. That means you can apply right now, anytime after October 1st. Now, how do you apply for benefits? Well, to me anyway, the simplest, easiest, most convenient way is to use Social Security's online retirement application, accessible at www.socialsecurity.gov. Take about 20 minutes or so from the comfort and convenience of your own home, stopping or starting, day or night, wearing your pink footy pajamas for all anybody knows. But as a caution, in order to use that online application, you do need to have established a My Social Security account for yourself in advance. So another reason to do that now, so that when retirement rolls around, you can use that online application. But if you're uncomfortable filing online, and by the way, every application submitted online is reviewed by a human being, you can call Social Security's toll-free number, 800-772-1213, set up an appointment, either for a telephone interview or an in-person visit, or you can contact your local office and set up an appointment to go in and sit down with somebody and they complete the application with you. But to me anyway, simplest, easiest way, use that online retirement application. Just 2 cautions. Remember, Social Security payments go out 1 month in arrears. So you're retiring December 31st. You want to start to collect effective with the month of January. You'll receive your January payment in the month of February. In addition, payments are staggered through the course of the month based on somebody's date of birth. Social Security now says if your date of birth is between the 1st and the 10th of the month in which you were born, you'll receive your payment direct deposit in your account on the 2nd Wednesday of the month, regardless of the date. Date of birth between the 11th and the 20th of the month in which you're born, payment direct deposit 3rd Wednesday of the month, regardless of the date. Your date of birth falls between the 21st and the end of the month in which you're born, payment always direct deposited on the 4th Wednesday of the month, regardless of the date. So you're retiring December 31st. You want to start to collect effective with the month of January, but your date of birth happens to be the 28th. Just recognize you'll see your first Social Security payment on the 4th Wednesday of February. There is this 1 month built-in lag by design, which can be exacerbated based on your date of birth. So just something you need to plan for to make sure you have a stream of income to tide you over, because your Social Security payment will be starting after you've retired. All right, so we've talked a little bit about the nuts and bolts of retiring. Just want to touch very quickly on the future of the program. Get lots of questions about that as well. You know, each year Social Security's Board of Trustees issues financial report on the health of the system, in which they attempt to project 75 years into the future. The most recent report came out at the end of March, said basically Social Security is currently constituted, stands ready, willing, and able to pay 100% of promised benefits each and every month between now and the end of the year 2033. And at that point, report goes on to say, assuming no changes to the program whatsoever, Social Security is projected to have enough money to cover about 80% of the benefits promised over the course of the next 75 years. So the issue confronting the future of the program is that how Congress between now and 2033 needs to come up with some changes that close not 100% funding gap by tomorrow, no, but they close a 20% funding gap over the course of the next 10 years or so. So there's important to remind folks there is no immediate crisis. Social Security faces some longer range challenges and do require congressional action to close that 20% funding gap. And the sooner that Congress takes those steps, the more likely are to have a quick and amiable solution. And AARP will continue to work to fight to ensure that the solutions that Congress come up with are fair to all those concerned. So don't fall into the trap of thinking about Social Security as a program in crisis. Faces some challenges, largely demographically driven, but the sooner Congress addresses those, the more likely we are to have that comfortable retirement, particularly for younger workers that we all hope to enjoy. So I've talked about a lot of stuff. I'm sure there are questions out there. Happy to spend some time addressing them. Peter, how about I turn it back to you and you share some of those questions with us?
Yep, I'll be happy to. And the only thing I have to mention is that, and I'm going to take responsibility for this, but we have had quite a few questions during your presentation, but people have been erroneously putting them into the chat section. And we'd like them to put them into the Q&A section, because if they put it in the Q&A, I can see them and sort them and combine them. The chat, I can't do that. So I have 7. I'm going to go through, Kurt, I'll get you started. But for those who were putting them into chat and still have a question, Kurt may have covered your question during his presentation. I understand that. But if you have a question, put it in and we'll see if we can get to it. First one, someone said that if you're earning Social Security and working, once you cross the threshold, Social Security benefits are reduced, as you mentioned, $1 for every $2. But later, after that, the money is paid back to you. Is that correct?
Great question. And the answer is yes, but not in the way most people think. So here's how it really works. So you're under your full retirement age. You apply for benefits. You start to collect, say you apply at age 62. Social Security will set your ongoing monthly payment rate. In our example, you get a full retirement age of 66. Based on the assumption, if you're going to start collecting at age 62, then you'll be collecting for that entire period of time, 4 years from age 62 till 66, 48 months worth of payments. So they reduce your payment by roughly 0.5% for each of the 48 months it's expected that you'll be collecting. But let's say, though, that a period of time you return to work and you make over the allowed amount. So therefore, Social Security withholds some benefits for a period of time because you've earned over the allowed amount. That question is always, well, do I get the money back? And the answer is yes, but as I said before, not in the manner that most people think. Here's what happens. Once you reach your full retirement age, Social Security goes back and re-examines your record and looks and says, hey, you know what? We set your retirement benefit amount based on the assumption that you are going to collect for all 48 months from age 62 right up until your full retirement age of 66. But let's say there was a period of time for 12 months where you didn't. Well, Social Security at your full retirement age will adjust your monthly payment amount upward, or looked at slightly differently, will reduce the amount of the reduction in your full retirement age amount, so that in the end, the reduction in that full retirement age benefit is only for the number of months you actually collected payments. So you do get the money back, but not in terms of an actual cash payout, but what you do is get the money back in terms of an actuarial adjustment upward in your ongoing monthly benefit amount. That happens once at your full retirement age, so that the final reduction in that full retirement age benefit is only for the number of months you actually collected payments.
Thank you. Does SSDI automatically convert to Social Security? And if so, at what age?
Great question. So if somebody's collecting Social Security disability insurance benefits, SSDI is the abbreviation, then at full retirement age, Social Security disability benefits end, and the individual is automatically, invisibly, seamlessly transitioned from the disability program to the retirement program, and then has all the rights and responsibilities appertaining thereto. See no change in the amount of the payment, see no change in the date of the payment, but largely an internal bookkeeping measure on the part of Social Security. Person no longer paid out of the disability account, paid out of the retirement program. But again, person doesn't have to do anything, happens automatically at someone's full retirement age month. Good question.
Okay. And if you're still working, can you also collect a survivor benefit?
So that earnings test we talked about, $21,240 this year, that applies to anyone under full retirement age looking to collect, whether it's a retirement benefit, excuse me, a spousal benefit, divorce spousal benefit, or a survivor benefit. Under full retirement age, you're subject to that earnings limitation. But again, at full retirement age, it goes away. So someone, a widow at age 60, for example, working, making $1 million a year, excuse me, not going to be able to collect, not because the widow's not old enough, not because she's not a widow, but under full retirement age, you're subject to that earnings limitation. Now, the important consideration here is this earnings test does not apply to disability benefits. For people collecting disability, it's a whole separate issue and involvement of earnings and continuing to collect disability. But for retirement benefits, spousal benefits, divorce spousal benefits or survivor benefits, or even kids under the age of 18, you're subject to that earnings limitation, which, by the way, Social Security in another week or so will be announcing the 2024 cost of living adjustment. And last year was an 8.7% increase, kicked in January of this past year. Speculation is the upcoming one, maybe 3.1%. We'll see next week when it gets announced. But at the same time, they announce a number of additional changes to the program, besides just the increase in benefits that are going to be paid. Among the things that get announced are the increase in that annual earnings limitation. The $21,240 will be going up a little bit, maybe around $23,000, who knows, but that'll be announced next week, October 12th. Early in the morning, the Bureau of Labor Statistics announces the CPIW, Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners, September increase. Social Security looks to the third quarter of 2022, July, August, September, compares that to the third quarter of 2023, July, August, September, and whatever increases occurred in the CPIW over that 12-month period, that gets passed on to Social Security beneficiaries, so shows up in the payments received beginning in January. But at the same time, a number of other programmatic changes get announced, including the amount required to accrue Social Security credit, the earnings limitation, all of those things. So a week from today, October 12th, 2024 numbers will get announced.
Just when you did address the advantage of applying to get spousal benefits, is there any advantage to getting spousal benefits before collecting your own benefit?
And you can't
Right.
do that anymore. That was one of those old strategies that if you were at full retirement age, you could take just the spousal benefit without having to take your own, but that's been eliminated. So now you always have to take your own first, and then Social Security will look to see whether there might be some additional money due you in a spousal benefit.
You answered the COLA question, so we'll move on.
Karnak predicted that was coming, Peter. Karnak.
Yeah, you knew that was coming. It might be more. I mean, we got 28 questions. I'm only on about the 7th one. Are spousal benefits limited by the family maximum?
So great question. And I kind of alluded to it briefly. So there is in place this thing called the family maximum, which a lot of people misunderstand. And for example, the question always comes up. So I've got a husband and wife, both of whom have been maximum wage earners throughout their entire working life. So they both hit full retirement age this year. Each one of those is going to be eligible to receive that maximum payment of $3,627 per month. There's no cross limitation between the two members of the couple. But the family maximum applies to the total amount of benefits that can be paid based on the work record of one single person. And the family maximum applies to the worker, him or herself, and then any or all other family members who might be eligible to collect. Now, for spousal and survivor, for kids benefits, as I said, basically entitled to 50% of the full retirement age amount. But the family maximum says the total amount of money that can be paid out is limited to about 180% of the worker's full retirement age amount. And the benefit being paid to the worker, him or herself, counts towards that. So you've got a situation where you've got a worker and two minor kids. Normally, worker would get his or her payment. Each of those two kids potentially eligible for 50% of the full retirement age amount. But family maximum comes in and says, no, you can't have 100 plus 50 plus 50 or 200%, so that the individual payments to the kids are proportionally reduced so that they don't get 50%, they get 40%. So there is this family maximum limiting the total amount of payments and go out based on one person's account. And it includes spouses, survivors, kids, but divorced spousal benefits are treated independently, as an important aside.
I have two questions. The first one, they're related. One is about explaining how Medicare comes out of the monthly Social Security payment, and is that required?
So it's important to remind folks, you never have to take your Social Security payment. Same way you never have to take Medicare. The issue with Medicare, though, and Medicare eligibility is at age 65. The issue is if you don't sign up for Medicare when you're first eligible and then try and get on at a later date, you face potentially delays in coverage and higher premiums. Medicare has a number of different parts. Part A, hospital insurance, provides coverage if you're an inpatient. There's no premium associated with Part A of Medicare. The premium is associated with Part B of Medicare, which is supplementary medical insurance, which applies and helps pay for things like, outpatient visits or doctor's visits or things like that, non-inpatient coverage. With Part B, if you want it, there's a monthly premium associated with it. 2023, the monthly premium, the base premium, $164.90 per month. If you are collecting Social Security payments and have enrolled in Part B of Medicare, that Part B premium is automatically deducted from your monthly Social Security payment. You have no option, no choice. If you're collecting benefits, automatically deducted. The issue comes if you signed up for Medicare at, say, 65, but you've intended to wait and sign up for Social Security benefits at age 70. So that period of time from the point where Medicare begins until you start to collect, you will be billed on a quarterly basis for your Part B premiums. Now, there are ways you can pay it. You can have automatic deduction. You can write a check, different things like that. But if you're at the point where you're collecting a Social Security payment and you have Part B of Medicare, you have no option. It is automatically deducted each month from your Social Security payment.
If you can explain also the whole, and I remember this from myself, people used to talk about this. What does it mean that you need to have 40 quarters of earned income to qualify for Social Security?
Yeah. And so basically, one of the hallmarks of the Social Security program from day one is it has been viewed as an earned right. You and your family qualify for Social Security payments because you have worked in a job covered under Social Security. You have paid Social Security tax, which is akin to an insurance program. You're paying a premium to entitle you and your family to coverage and protection at some point down the road. But the question is, well, how much time do I need to work to have coverage and protection under the Social Security program? Now, when the program started, talked about earning quarters of coverage, meaning if you worked during a calendar quarter of the year and made at least $50 at a job, you'd get 1/4 of coverage because there are 4 calendar quarters in a year. You could earn a maximum of 4 quarters during the calendar year. 1978, the law changed, became a lot easier for people to get coverage and protection under the program because you now earned Social Security protection for yourself and your family by earning what are now called credits, which are based not on when you work, but based on how much you work and earn. And to qualify for a Social Security payment of any type under the retirement program, during your entire working life, you need to accrue 40 Social Security quarters of coverage and/or credits, which, if you think about it, it's the equivalent of 10 years of work under the system. Absent 10 years of work, absent those 40 credits, you can't qualify for anything based on your own work record, but it may be possible for you to collect based on the work and earnings of your spouse. But that's that minimum threshold required. Incidentally, for survivor benefits, disability benefits, where people can qualify at a younger age, you don't necessarily need 40. The number you need is going to be based on the age the person is at when they become disabled or pass away. But there is this hallmark that you work in a job covered under the program, you pay those Social Security tax, you accrue those credits, which is going to entitle you to get something when the time comes based on that work record you've had.
If my father died and I am a 50-year-old disabled person and working, can I collect his Social Security?
Well, and I guess it comes down to the definition of Social Security disability benefits. And basically, Social Security disability, whether it's based on your own work record or for benefits as that disabled adult child we had talked about, you qualify for payments because you've got this medical condition which is so severe that it prevents you from working. And so on the surface, if you're still working, making a decent living, you're not going to be able to qualify for Social Security disability benefits while you're still working, nor could you qualify based on your father's work record. To qualify as a disabled adult child, you need to become disabled prior to attaining age 22. And if you've been working since age 22, you're not going to meet that definition of disability. But You're working right now, something happens, you're unable to work anymore. Conceivable, you could collect Social Security disability benefits based on your own work record, because disability benefits can be paid based on, at any age, based on someone's work record while they've been working and paying into the system.
What's the maximum percentage of Social Security income they can tax?
Great question. So prior to 1983, Social Security benefits were not subject to federal income tax. They were completely tax-free. But that year, Congress changed the IRS code, said if you're a higher income Social Security beneficiary, you'd be required to pay federal income tax on a portion of the payments that you had received in the prior year. How did they define higher income beneficiary? Well, I said if you're a single tax filer, you had income from all sources, earned and unearned, in excess of $25,000, couple filing jointly in excess of $32,000, then you'd be required to pay federal income tax on a portion of the payments that you had received in the prior year. Congress has never indexed those thresholds. So here, 40 years later, at the end of the year, if you were a single tax filer, you have income from all sources, earned and unearned, in excess of $25,000, couple filing jointly in excess of $32,000. Then, depending on how much more you have an income above those thresholds, you could find yourself in a position of having to pay federal income tax on up to 85% of the benefits that you had received in the prior year. 15% of what you receive, always federal tax-free, but up to 85% treated as ordinary income, taxed at whatever marginal tax rate you happen to fall under. So it's a maximum of 85%, depending on how much more you have in income. These days, about half of all Social Security beneficiaries do find themselves paying federal income tax on a portion of the payments they had received in the prior year. At the end of the year, Social Security sends out a 1099 form. Use that in filing a tax return. Question often comes up, will the Social Security automatically withhold a portion of my payments every month, send it off the IRS in advance like they do for my salary? The answer is no. But if you'd like to have it done, you can ask to have a percentage withheld sent to the IRS in advance and may avoid the need for filing quarterly estimates. Incidentally, these are the federal tax rules that apply regardless of where you reside. Now, at the state level, though, the vast majority of states, 39 out of the 50 states, do not tax Social Security benefits in any way, shape, or fashion, including here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But that leaves 11 that do. So depending upon where you end up in retirement, just double check, make sure, see if you're in one of those 11 states that does happen to tax Social Security benefits at the state level. Here in New England, by the way, 3 states do tax: Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Vermont tax Social Security benefits at the state level in some form or fashion. But Massachusetts, again, does not.
I'm trying, by the way, when I go through these to the participants here, I'm trying to give Kurt the questions that are not so specific to a unique circumstance that might only apply to a few people. So if I do skip over your question, please feel free to contact Kurt directly, as we mentioned, on the AARP website. And I'll give you that direction again, ma@aarp.org. If I don't get to your question, we've got quite a few left. I'm not sure we're going to make it. But here's another one. If I leave my city job before 10 years, move my retirement to a private IRA, will Social Security still reduce my widow benefit?
So there are 2 provisions of the Social Security program that impact people who receive a public pension based on work not covered under the Social Security program. One is called the Windfall Elimination Provision, abbreviation the WEP. The other is Government Pension Offset, or GPO. The windfall provision, that applies if you get that public pension based on work not covered under Social Security, but in addition have accrued 40 Social Security credits, you have your 10 years of time under the system. With the WEP, first and foremost, as long as you get 10 years of time, you'll always get something every month from Social Security, even if you get that public pension. That's the good news. The bad news is, with fewer than 30 years of time under Social Security, you get less each month than you would if you didn't get that public pension. The government pension offset, that applies to you if you get that public pension, but now look to collect based on the work and earnings of your spouse, deceased spouse, or ex-spouse. And here the news is not as good, because what the law says, before Social Security will pay you, Now, you always get your own benefit, but before you could receive any additional money, they look at the amount of your public pension and figure out what 2/3 of that monthly pension is, and then reduce any additional spousal, divorced spousal, or survivor benefit you might be eligible to receive by that 2/3 of your pension. So if 2/3 of your pension is more than what you can collect based on your spouse, ex-spouse, or deceased spouse, you don't get anything more. You get your own Social Security benefit plus your own public pension. But the key thing in all of this, what triggers either the WEP and or GPO, is the fact that you receive a pension, that you vested in your pension. So if you never vest in the system, you need 10 years of work under the system, qualify for a public pension, you never hit 10 years, you take all your money out, then that won't trigger WEP and or GPO. It's the fact that you have qualified for and receive a public pension that triggers both the WEP and or GPO.
Okay, here's one. If someone has worked for the state, getting a state pension, and his or her spouse starts receiving Social Security, are those people eligible for spousal benefits?
And that was what I was talking about with government pension offset. And before Social Security will pay that person a spousal benefit, i.e. 50% of their spouse's amount, Social Security is going to take a look at their public pension, figure out what 2/3 of the monthly amount is. And if 2/3 of their state pension exceeds what they could collect based on their spouse's Social Security record, well, they don't get anything more from Social Security. So they're going to offset or reduce any spousal portion by 2/3 of the amount of the public pension.
And the 50% that a spouse would be given of the larger earners' Social Security, when is that amount calculated? At full retirement age or up to 70?
So it's based on the person's full retirement age amount, regardless of when they start to collect. So they start to collect at 62, for example, they're getting less than their full retirement age amount. They wait all the way until 70, they're getting more than their full retirement age amount because they've accrued those delayed retirement credits. But the spousal benefit is going to be based on 50% of what the person would have received at his or her full retirement age.
Okay. Okay, a couple of easy. Okay. In 2033, when only 80% of Social Security can be paid out to you, does this also apply to someone who's already collecting at full retirement age, or are those people grandfathered?
Who knows? And you know, Congress can do whatever they want. They could make across the board cuts. They could, exempt people who are already collecting. It's just unclear. It has yet to be determined. But the important thing to note, particularly for younger workers who talk to me, they say, well, there's not going to be anything there for me down the road. I say, no, keep in mind, Social Security's primary source of income, payroll tax dollars from employers, employees, and people who are self-employed. So absent a complete and total collapse of the economy, Mad Max beyond Thunderdome situation, Social Security is always going to have a revenue stream of some sort. It's never going to be zero coming in. There's always going to be something coming in. The trustees predict beginning in 2034, that's going to be about enough to cover about 80% of the benefits that have been promised. Now, how that gets allocated, it's up to Congress to decide, and that hasn't been decided yet. But again, the key thing is it's never going to be at zero. There's always going to be this income stream. It's a question of how between now and 2033 do you close that, in essence, 20% funding gap.
If I am on short-term disability, soon to be on long-term disability, and because I'm not able to work, am I able to file for SSDI, or do you have to quit your job and then apply?
No, so it comes down to, are you working? So that you say you're collecting short-term disability, but you're not working at the time, you can certainly apply for Social Security disability. But you can't be working and well, you can apply for disability while you're working, but you're not going to be approved. The key thing is, has the medical condition now reached a level of severity that it prevents you from working? And if you're working, congratulations, but you're not going to qualify for Social Security disability benefits. But you don't have to have left work. I mean, you're out on disability, you're not actually working. No reason why you can't apply at that point.
Well, there are a few others, but they're very unique to individuals, Kurt, and I've asked them to email you directly. if they want some further detailed information. As usual, Kurt, this has been fantastic. And all of you out there listening, I really want to encourage you, if we have not answered all of your questions, to please email Kurt directly and he will address your concerns. That's the whole idea of doing this. Thanks, Kurt. Again, you're the best. Great information. Please, all of you listening, please be reassured that AARP is always going to make sure that Social Security is protected for you and for future generations. And for more information, go on to our AARP Social Security Resource Center. Kurt shared that with you earlier, aarp.org/Social Security. A lot of resources there and great resources. You'll be able to know what you're talking about when you address this issue, when you read these documents. And to start receiving our advocacy emails, go to aarp.org/get involved. I think you'll enjoy that as well. If you're looking for the same level of information about Medicare, you can find it at aarp.org/Medicare. Again, articles, information, a lot of questions can be answered there. We really hope that you found this informative. We enjoy doing it for you, and I know Kurt is really enjoys knowing that so many people, we had 100 people with us tonight, enjoyed listening to his comments and his expertise. We encourage you again, if we didn't answer your question, ma@aarp.org, and we'll be in touch with you. Thank you all very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you at our next presentation.